Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, you are in the world. Good day today? Morning? Name is Digital Dragon 72, and thank you for joining me in the Dragon Lair again. Turn it on here. There we go. Once again, thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to start our next build in the build series. It is going to be a printer called the BugBu, created by a gentleman by the handle of Rolls17, ROLS17. And this is going to be should be a fairly decent build. It's going to be a smaller size build, a little bit bigger than the Micron, of course. It does use a standard Ender 3, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of the size. Speaking of the Ender 3, you have the Ender 3 enclosed. We are printing higher tip material like SA. In this case, we are printing some parts for the BugBu, larger parts, and they're going to be in AVP Keene Village Plastics. This is their graphite color. It's an ABS. These will be mounts for the power supply. Come out really nice. Right now, showing that will be the electronics case. We are going to try and build this from the manual so we can provide feedback to the designer on the manual and build sequencing. Find any issues. I will be covering using, I would say, a Meanwell LRS 250 24-volt power supply, as well as a BTT SKR Mini E3 Raspberry Plus setup down secondary. I'll say in a control box a la CR10. It's going to be a new control box setup for my TiVo Tarantula, which is down here. Nearly one of these days we will have that on stream. Actually, you're at Matt, got Ella. Thank you for joining me in this morning. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty small build based on some conversations last week. The group decided that we were going to do green and orange color scheme. So these are the parts that I've printed so far. These are in Polymaker green ASA, and then the orange is going to be their ABS orange. And as you can see, we got the BugBu logo. These are on the all of the corner parts, front, back, top. So we'll have a nice little branding on printer as well and build it. So the other thing I wanted to do real fast is the files for this printer. If you decide that you want to build one of these, join me and build along with the video sessions live or later. We can go ahead and go to our browser. Never seems to take the link. And the files for this are up on printables.com. And from Printables, you will be able to connect out to the GitHub page to get all the latest updated files, as well as their Discord channel. Right when I joined a little over a week ago, they were just adding the Discord channel and getting Discord set up. And I will tell you that the Discord's gotten pretty active since then. If you're in the 3D printing area, you'll notice some of the names that are joining in there, like Tog, such. So it is starting to get a good community around this printer to provide feedback, as well as just some good information and good ideas on mods and future changes to the printer. They do have the BugBu 210 and then a BugBu 310. Of course, the only difference is the 310 is going to be 100 millimeters longer in each direction, so it'll be 410, 420 sidewalk build area. So the 210 is built using 300 millimeter extrusions, and the BugBu 310 will be made with 400 millimeter extrusions. So the only real difference is going to be, I believe, changes in the extrusion length and the bed size itself. Other than that, everything else should just be the same files for the corner bracket. That's the changes. Yeah. So this is the printer. Like I said, you can go out to printables.com and just do a search for BugBu. Based on the description that we have down here, once again, there's the Discord and the GitHub links. This individual has a Bambu Lab printer and has decided that he wants to kind of basically do a budget type clone. So this is loosely based on the Bambu printer, meaning it's an extrusion type frame rather than the stamped steel that the Bambu. But it does have linear rods for the X and the Y gantry system. It is all going to be the stainless steel chrome plated linear rods, standard 8 millimeter linear rods for any fiber. We will use LM8 UU bearings, and it will be a triple lead screw, but it's a synchronized triple lead screw system using one motor. I'm going to be reusing motors that I have on the bench stock, as well as a lot of the parts that I had on bench stock. And I went out and I think I spent close to $200 just parts that I did not already have. So far, the hardest piece to source has been the closed loop belt for the Z drive system, because you need I believe it's 1080 to 1100 millimeter closed loop belt. And the only place I've been able to find that size belt has been AliExpress. We all know it takes a couple of weeks, like 4 to 6 weeks to get stuff in through AliExpress. Did find one on Amazon, but once again, it was a long lead time and it's shipping out of China. So just be aware that's probably going to be your long pole in the tent, so to speak. The aluminum extrusions and the rods and lead screws are relatively easy to get in 300 millimeter Amazon searches. You want it to be cheaper, of course you can source it Express. It will be cheaper. It's just going to take longer to get here, so you want to do it now. So, yeah, and the designer does have a little video here. I'm going to go ahead and see if this plays well over the stream. This is just his little coming soon video. This is a nice little
Core XY printer
Designer
that's
does
affordable
have
to build
provisions
without sacrificing
for LED
speed
lighting,
or
as you
quality.
can see here.
Coming to a
I'm not
workbench
sure
near
if I'm
you,
going to do
the
lighting or
BugBu.
not. They are using the CHC nozzles. They're using the ones that are more volcano style, high flow versions. I went ahead and purchased the CHC 24, but I got the standard size um, nozzle, and I'm going to make this to a 3D V6 throat, throat and sink. Or I have a Dragonfly that I may use, but I think I'm going to give the CHC a try. So we'll see. I may have to do a different fan shroud for it. We'll see. Get to that. So without further ado, I am going to change our view back here to our dual view, so you get a good look at the workbench, which is nice and clean. We don't have anything, haven't had anything on here in a couple of days, which is nice. I've been doing some more organizing, so I've got a couple more of the plastic bins of bits, bobs, and screws that's gone. I do have my trays set up so that we've got our idlers that we'll use to synchronize our lead screws with the millimeter throats. So lead screws, got the ones for the X, Y, and Z motors. These are GT2 22 pulleys. We've got the GT2 style toothless pulleys, tooth pulleys. We're going to be using a lot of M5 by 10s. The manual does state to use M5 by 12s, that M5 by 10s will work. I've got a ton of M5 by 10s already, so I decided I was just going to go 5 by 10s. With that, we're going to go ahead. So I'm going to actually follow the build log over here on my laptop, just because it's a little bit easier for me, and I can see chat that way and not get distracted with having too many things on my main screen here. But you can follow along. Once again, the assembly manual is in the files section of the printables.com files. So you can go ahead and get the things that we're going to need is our front, right, and left feet. These have provisions for 608 bearings, feet screws. We're going to need our back feet. These are the same file, it's just printed twice. So the BugBu symbol's going to be at different corners on this, but it's the same file. So we'll need the 4 feet. We'll need the front and rear idler brackets. These will go up at the top, as well as the left and right motor brackets. And we will go ahead and get started on this build. We're also going to need, like I said, a bunch of our M5 by 10 screws and T-nuts of choice. They suggest hammerhead T-nuts in the bomb. I've learned to despise those over the years, so I will be using Roland 2020 M5 T-nuts for this build. The nice thing is they're easy to position, and once they're positioned, normally stay extrusion. Dealing with extrusion or slot normal. So we will go ahead and start doing our build sequence. And really the way we're going to build this is we're going to do our uprights on all 4 legs. And then once we have our uprights in, then we'll go ahead and start doing the cross members to make the bottom plate. So the easiest thing to do, is grab one of your extrusions. And I like to put these so that I don't leave a lot of the T-nut exposed. So I will put them in where the holes themselves are one towards the bottom, one towards the top. And we'll need this on 2 sides like that. That way we can get the T-nuts in here and we won't see them once we're done getting the build. But I'm just going to go ahead and load these on 2 sides of 4 of my extrusions. And these extrusions were pretty nice. Each one was individually wrapped, and there was a lot of, I'll say, shavings and filings, but they were actually captured on the adhesive of that protective plastic. So there really wasn't a lot of, I'll say, cruft that needed to be cleaned out or wiped down. In fact, I didn't wipe these down at all. I just may have given them a quick little, blow to get any of the excess material off. But once again, we're just going in and loading these up, and we'll move them in some just to get them up and out of the way a bit. And we will set about aligning these in just a couple of minutes after we get this floor set up. But depending on where you source your rails, depends on what the quality of the cuts will be, whether you have any additional post-processing done, like if you need to have the ends drilled and tapped, or in this case they're already drilled. If you need them tapped, you can pay extra for those at some places. Some places, depending on the kit that you're buying, like if you buy a boron kit, doesn't really matter what manufacturer you're getting it from, they are going to have the ends pre-tapped. They'll have the blind nut holes already pre-drilled. So I think that's just table stakes these days on kits out there. But on something like this, there's no need to have any of the ends tapped, and there's no blind nuts. You're using all T-nuts, so there's no real post-processing. So it's just making sure that you get a company that's got some decent ratings, so that you can rest assured that you're not going to get really warped, wonky, twisted rim. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of lay this in here next to our holes. And I'm just going to work on roughly lining these up with the holes so that I will then be able to set this in place and start adding my screws. So this is just a rough adjustment so that it's close. So once I lay my pieces in, if I need to, I can do a final move around, and like you can see that one at the top is a little loose. So you'll get that sometimes where the springs on these aren't the best, but they're normally good enough to place. Get our M10 screws in there, and we'll start tightening them down. And you're doing these through plastic. The nice thing with the button heads is you do get a nice good Don't do like I did and just have it rotated the wrong direction. But with the button heads, you do get a nice, good surface contact area on the printed part, so there's probably little to no chance that you're going to um, pull through the part. If you're going to be using button head cap screws, you may also look into going ahead and using the M12s and possibly putting an M5 washer underneath just to distribute the load a little bit more and allow you to get a little bit better grasp of things. And like I said, this one T-nut seems to be a little bit loose, so it moves around a bit. That's easy enough to adjust. And I'm just, getting these tight. I'm not going to like ugga-dugga anything down yet. And I want to make sure that it's fully seated against the plastic part. So just make sure of that. And then that's our first leg done. We're coming in here and start doing the same thing on the next one. So once again, we're just going to lay our part in there where we can see our holes, and then we're just going to move our T-nuts to where they're about lined up with those holes. Then we can make final adjustments afterwards. Actually put the screws in. We're lined up top to bottom. Got good alignment on these two, so we'll go ahead and get a couple of our screws put in place. Once again, right now I'm not trying to lock everything down really hard. I'm just trying to get the screws to bite hard in. Once again, we'll work on getting things all squared up once we get all sides together and we get our cube. Then we'll work on getting it squared up and fully tightened down. The string connection is doing good. I don't have a lot of drop frames right now, which is good. I am experiencing some weather right now. We have some coming in. Extreme. I will tell you, I had one of these parts that had a very, very slight layer shift on it. And I did notice it, and I am going to reprint that part. I'm just going to do that off stream. It's about a 10-hour print on the mounts here. Not sure if you can tell on this here. See that line? Ever so slight shift. Shouldn't impact actually mounting it on here so I can get the frame set up. I am going to reprint this part once I get some of the other stuff reprinted. And I did have a couple of places where it did start to warp up on an end here. And the only thing I can think of is this was an overnight print. And so the temperature, ambient temperature in this room must have dropped a little more at night. It's just allowed some fit. But I do tend to take prints off and set them down at the bottom and basically allow them to sit in the bottom while I print several other prints. And that way it does help them gain more heat, slowly cool off to reduce any chance of warping or heating. You just take them out and throw them on the bench, and then you happen to be under a air conditioning duct or something, the draft could almost flash cool them apart and cause you shrinkage on here. So we got one more leg to do. We'll start putting in horizontal cross member. Again, we're just going to do a rough alignment on the T-nuts. Just going to roll it over in place and add our screws. And with as thick as these parts are, you know, yeah, M5x12s would definitely work for these. Still won't bottom out on these. Like I said, I just had a good amount of M5x10s from recent builds, so that was easier. In fact, I did go ahead and order some more just to maintain my bench stock after this particular build, so that I'll be prepared. And one less thing to do next build is the M5x10s. And so with that, we now have our 4 vertical uprights. So I'm just going to make sure and give a little ugga push to make sure that they're fully seated down at the bottom. These are going to be our 2 back corner pieces. So our next one is going to be horizontal member that'll go right in between these at the bottom. So this will allow me to get in my T-nuts and then get them in the right positions. Should be able to, yep, we have enough distance to kind of do our opposite end setup again. That way we minimize any visibility of our T-nuts with frame. One T-nut wants to be a pain in the butt. How's everybody doing today out there? Everybody having a good weekend? Hopefully everybody's staying dry. We've got, as I maybe mentioned earlier, we've got a little bit of weather coming in. So should come and go right past us. To lay this over here, have to get this line back. T-nut a little bit. And there's enough of a lip here on the parts. I'll show you just a second. That helps almost. So there's enough of a lip here on the edge that it really helps get it lined up on these two parts. And then once again, want it to be a tad bit loose. And then I'm just going to push in, make sure that it's seated really well. Then just snug it up. Once again, I'm not going to throw a square on this to make sure that's a perfect 90 just yet. I'm going to get the whole frame together, and then I will work on squaring up all of the parts. So there's the back of the frame, front of the frame, join these together. Hey Rolls17, how are you doing? Okay, so my audio's cutting in and out a little bit. Okay, that might just be, like I said, the. Oh, sounds great, Rolls. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to you if I have any questions. So my first read through the instruction manual seems pretty straightforward if you've built printers before, so shouldn't have an issue. And yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, like I said, we've got some rain going on right now, and high winds to follow. So hopefully my stream doesn't go down due to a power or internet blip. I am on a little bit of a cruddy rural connection for internet. It's Windstream, and I get a 100 meg download with, I'm getting about 20 upload right now. So that may be causing some of the sound issues. But the good thing is the top for the area is probably about 100 yards kind of catty corner to the house here. So if there is an issue, we normally hear them coming and get to make sure that they're on it really fast. Then if I have any power issues, I have a Duke Energy engineer that lives 2 houses down. So they normally, as soon as an outage occurs, they're on the phone figuring out what's going on, how long it's going to be. So it's kind of a nice thing to have. Just making sure to pull these tight together and place. Same thing. So So as you can see, the printer comes together pretty quickly. have our front and back. Go ahead and get my next T-nuts laid in here, and then we'll start connecting the front and back together. So for those of you that just joined, we do have Rolls17 in the chat. He is the designer of the printer, and so that's pretty nice. So if we have any issues, we have him that we can reach out to. I think he's got it going in the background. If I remember right, I saw on Discord, is it you that's out running a table for show right now for work? Hey, Noxon, how you doing? Yeah, so Noxon is also building a BugBu. A little bit further along in the process than I am, but like most of us, we're waiting on one or two parts to come in still, so you can only go so far and then you hit a roadblock. Like I said, a lot of that's waiting on things like belts that you're getting from China, whether you buy them from Amazon or not, they're most likely still rolling in out of China. So is it the same color? Yeah, Noxon. So this is Polymaker ASA green. And I've decided that the electronics backpack is going to be in Keene Village Plastics Graphite. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. And the bed mounts and the extruder pieces itself, so like the X carriage will still be the green, but the actual extruder English, the actual extruder pieces will be orange, and that was decided by my streamers. So okay, so you're doing all yours in the PLA Pro. Good. Yeah, and so that's the thing, folks. These printers can be printed in PLA. I'll say, a la the what's the printer we just built? The Rollahan Rook. So these can be printed in PLA, but if you're going to enclose them, once again, you need a higher temp material. Not that I'm necessarily going to enclose this, and if I do, I would probably say that one of the easiest ways to do that would be to slide panels in, meaning, sorry, a second here. Like to slide panels in through the channels. So what I'd probably do would be to line the center channels with some thin felt back tape, right? And then slide my panels in that way. I'd already put. Yes, that way the inside of the channel would be lined with your thin felt tape. And then you'd slide in, you'd cut and slide in your plexiglass panels, and that would provide your good seal. And that would probably be the best way of sealing up the printer. And of course, you'd put a bottom panel on as well, so you'd have a fully enclosed printer. So at this point, I'm just going to go around and make sure everything is just, like I said, basic tight. I'm not cranking down on these. I'm just making sure that everything is snug. And that way, when we go to do the next part of the build, everything should line up. And once I get the top, the bottom, and everything, then we can work on actually getting everything nice and squared up using a square or what have you. Go ahead and pop these out. Aren't needed. And once again, the front of the machine will have the two landing spots for your lead screws, and you will put a 608 bearing in there. It is a decent fit. I'm just not going to put them in there until I, probably the Tuesday stream when hopefully my rods will be here and my lead screws will be. Next up, before we can put on our front idlers, we need to actually go ahead and add in our idlers. And to do this, we're going to use some captive M5 nuts. These are your standard hex nuts. Okay. Standard M5 hex nuts. We will use M5 by 25 screws. For those. And we're going to need 4 idlers. And we're going to go ahead and use our smooth idlers. So the 22 size idlers, no teeth in them. You can use tooth idlers. There's only a couple of places where it's going to be the back side of the belt that rolls on the idler, and you want to use smooth there. But you can use smooth where the teeth are rolling. Yeah, so that's another thing, Rolls17, is if you do want to enclose this, the standard has always been, okay, well, we can lay the plate on top and do it that way. But the way that this goes together and the way that you'll have your clamping pieces on the top, you'd have to cut the appropriate holes in the bottom deck and then slide that in so that the holes are already there for um, your leads or your lead screws, and you should have the clearance. I'll have to wait and see once I get the actual front parts on there and get my lead screws in. But you should be able to slide in and do a deck panel like that. If not, you would have to shape the cutouts on the top to go around various things. But on the front and back, yeah, just sliding them in through the extrusion would probably be the easiest way, especially since you don't have like any rear extrusion in the mix. So, things for future thoughts. What are we doing? We're doing our idler brackets. So on your idler brackets, you're going to have an idler at the top and an idler at the bottom for both belts. And these two slots right here where you get your M5 nuts in for your captive nuts. And you want to put those so that the flat faces are top and bottom, so you'll have a point in and out. And with any luck, your tolerances are good and they just slip and slide right in. Also, make sure that you've done appropriate post-processing on your prints. With the way these print, you shouldn't have an issue. Those popped in with a nice flick. If you do have any overhang, like on these parts here, I'm not sure if we can see, but you'll see that at the top of this inside part, there was a little bit of roughness there. There was a little bit of roughness, and that's from a bridged overhang. So if need be, just remember you need to go in there with a hobby knife and clean those out, maybe a file, just to make sure it's nice and clean. Hey, Westery One, how are you doing, sis? Glad to see you. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, after I get this put together, then that'll be something I'll look at as to, how much of a pain in the butt it would be to add any sit in pretty nicely. So once again, you get your idler in there, and your screw is going to be your pin basically, and you're just going to run your screw in, and just make sure that you're not really tightening these down. You just want to snug that screw up and make sure that your idler is able to spin around and move a lot. Now, I didn't see anything about needing washers on these. There is a good amount of movement top to bottom, so let me just double check, see if there's anything in the manual. Yeah, it doesn't say anything, and I've got good play there. I mean, there's really not, might be room for a washer. But once again, the belt should tighten that up. And you'll notice there's a pretty deep cavity here. So if you are using socket head cap screws, you're going to be fine. They're going to clear whatever. So you wouldn't have an issue there. But once again, you're just going to just tighten those up and then maybe do like a quarter turn, and that's it. You don't want to deform the part. You just want it to be held in place. Yeah, so you didn't use any washers. That might be something for down the road then, Rolls, is just to add a little bit of extra to enable washers, or I'll say a print in place washer. And what I mean by that is have a one ring right at the top and bottom of each spot to act as a washer. Um, just reduced because there is a decent amount of play in these. But if you add that little bit of a washer, and it just has to be one extra lip around the hole, one or two, that should make it a little bit tighter, reduce some of that gap, and help things line up a little bit better. Just as a suggestion, but right now, I mean, these are probably falling in place better than any other idlers I've ever had to put together. So definitely a good job there as far as the parts falling in. And they kind of roll in and just, they just roll in and stop, like right where they need to be. Might be just a tad bit, but see, I'm not having to fiddle with the screw to get it in there. It just pops right in. Then once again, you get it tight, and then maybe a quarter turn or eighth of a turn just to cinch it down, and now you've got your idlers in. Which means now, once again, we've got our front of the machine facing the camera. So my idlers, the cutout here is where your linear rod's going to clip in. So that is your y-axis. So that needs to be going front to back. And let me go close those blinds. Trying to check on the weather before it starts raining. Yeah, you can either add that bit of plastic, which shouldn't need any support or anything to do, just that one extra line, or then you'd have to open the gap up a little bit to be able to put in a washer top and bottom. And then you want to look at, do I want to use a standard washer, which would have the M5's over here. On this M3 here, you'll see you've got a shiny edge, and that's where it pressed from the top down. And the other side has a little bit of a burr from where it stamped. So if you use standard washers, you just have to be cognizant of that little burr, because I've done some printers lately where the tolerances are real tight for using washers, and you almost have to then go and do a precision shim, and those can be a pain in the butt to source as well. Once again, if you get them off of Ollie, you may get a good batch, you may not get a good batch, and then you're dealing with, I'm supposed to have a M5 inner diameter, 10 millimeter outer diameter, half a millimeter thick shim, and it's 0.7. And so now your tolerances are back off again. So I think adding the bit to the print would be a lot easier. Those will be little notes that I'll add. So once again, this is where the spring nuts may come in handy, as long as they fit well and they don't slide down. If they slide down, then like that one's going to slide down. So, okay, we'll play with gravity, and we'll just lay the printer on its side and use gravity to top and bottom, or I mean top and then side. Then we'll just use our part to line them up. We're good. this one. And the nice thing too is your parts. Rolls, you did a great job at labeling the parts. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. I probably should have done it before I started getting all these together. Those that are watching now and or later posterity. What I do, Rolls, is I do my live streams, and of course they'll reside on Twitch, but I also move them over to my YouTube channel. So they'll be over on YouTube as well. But each of these parts on these larger parts are marked. So this is front right. This is your front right idler. Your legs were marked with back, and then front right, front left. So you know where you're putting them in relation on the printer. So that is an awesome, awesome thing, rather than having, to try and figure it out, sitting here staring at parts going, well, this for this piece or that piece, especially when they're just slightly different, like with the clamps. I do not believe the clamps are mirrors of each other, so you can't take like the left clamp and put it on the right one just in a flip-flop version. I think they are. I think the geometries would be a little bit off, but may be mistaken on. Hey, Build Overbot, how are you doing today, sir? And thank you. We're just sitting here doing the initial frame build for the BugBu. And Westery One, I didn't ask earlier, sis. Hey, Frank and B Gaming, how are you doing? Everybody's coming in. Oh, okay, you're on the phone. Okay. Yeah, I had a quick question. How's the horse doing? And how's my little girl doing? Is she feeling better finally? Back to her rotten self? Yeah, that's what I thought. So the corner clamps are not interchangeable, right, Noxon? See? Good. I'm glad they're both doing better, sis. Good news. And for those of you that are new to my channel, at least, Westery One is a heck of a printer. She is an actress, a cosplayer, I believe. She is building. She has built in the past a Captain America shield, and I made a comment that maybe for her last milestone she'd be willing to print another one and give it away on stream. And she accepted that challenge, and because I kind of put her on the spot with the challenge without thinking about the amount of work that was involved, I went ahead and sent her some filament from Polymaker for that, some draft PLA filament, and as well as some cosplay filament. So not only is she building another Captain America shield, but she is now in the process of building a Hawkeye bow. And as long as we can get all the mechanisms working right, it is going to be collapsible and spring out, with that jerk motion. And if we can get it strong enough, she's going to try and actually shoot it off horseback, off of one of her horses. But it has to be able to pull, what is it, at least 60 pounds without breaking on the draw strength, Westry. You're not a cosplayer yet, but they're working on you. I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, and so with that, we've got our front idlers on, and once again, I really like the badging of the BugBu on this. This was a nice touch, by the way, Rolls. I don't know if that was all you or somebody added, but yeah, that was a nice touch. And hey, Frankenbee, if you want to build one, I will post, when I move this over to YouTube, I get a lot more ability to add the description. And when I'm done with the stream, I can add more to the description than when I do the stream go live announcement. So once these streams are posted later today, I will have the link to the printable site. I'll have the link to the Discord. I'll have the link to the GitHub for Rolls on there. And from that, you'll be able to easily get the BOM and everything. But the printer is on printables now. It is still a bit of work in progress. There will be a little bit of refinement, if I understand right, based on the initial build feedbacks that we're doing. And right now, this is where I gotta stop and think for a second. This is the back right, so this is the right motor. So it's going to go. That's it. That's the way it goes. And you will notice on this side, which is where it prints at, that it does have that little sacrificial layer. So we will have to break that out with a drill bit real fast. Doesn't take much. You can do it by hand. You just need to grab a number 5 drill bit. Drill bit, not remember. Look better. So far, the prints on these, so the files themselves. Oh, okay. Okay, so under Gulsifer, gotcha. Yeah, Gulsifer is pretty cool, and I built a Rook as the last printer I built on this stream, and that was a great little printer. I'll throw it up here on the bench in just a second, but that is a great little printer, and it can print pretty fast. But once again, I'm not into fast printing. I'm into prints that look good and are functional and work good. So, speed is great, but speed isn't the only thing, because as you ramp up the speed, you actually start introducing other issues into the tuning stage. Not that that's bad, it's just it takes a lot more tuning to tune for speed. And there are just times when I need to print, So yeah, once again, it's just that one layer sacrificial and just a quick drill bit. You saw I didn't use the power or anything. I just came in there with the drill bit itself by hand, and those pop out real nicely. Go ahead and do it for the other side. And hey, Daddy Wazzy, how are you doing, sir? And yeah, I'm early, and it's still early on a Saturday morning here, but by early I mean it's 11 o'clock, so it's not too early, but when you wake up and it starts raining at 10, you really can't get out and do much before it starts raining, so well, awesome. Awesome. I'm glad you're doing great, Daddy Wisey. Daddy Wisey is another guy that does some design, a lot of good prints and streams and shares his knowledge, which is great. Love everybody that streams and shares their knowledge with everybody. Okay, so you're out on the West Coast. Gotcha. I know Western one's East Coast with me, and I expect we'll see Royal Nomi on here in a little bit. Her and BC are in Texas. May even get a surprise sighting of a subsector. So yeah, just some little quick hole cleanup there, and I think that's, if I remember right, that's the only real place that we have anything like that. So like out of the way. And once again, back right. Like that. There is no idler built on this. So it's just getting our T-nuts in place. She's still sleeping? Yeah. I don't know. I want to say the other day she was cleaning. Couldn't be the death of trying to do something. Good. This. So all I'm trying to do is just get these coasts lined up so that I can have a better chance of getting them on there. And once again, the designer does call for M5 by 12s, and M5 by 10s will work. And that is what I'm using is M5 by 10s, just because that's what I have a ton of here. Yeah, sorry about the Twitch ads, Noxon. Give me 1 second and I will. The wrong thing over there. Yeah, I got to keep the lights on. Yeah, I haven't really messed with the Twitch ads that much. So sorry about that. They do still roll. When I catch them and think about it, I do try and snooze them for a bit. And quite honestly, the ad revenue is not a lot. They just haven't figured out how to. I know there's a setting, I've heard people talk about it before, of how to set it to basically kill all the ads. Yeah, and the printer's fed. That's true, Noxon. And there's going to be some upgrades to the layer here soon. I say soon. So right now, the way this house electrical was laid out, the garage outlets and lights, and this room, which sits right above the garage, all the outlets and lights and the laundry room lights are all in the same 15 amp circuit. So as you can see, I have a number of 3D printers behind me. I have successfully run 4 at a time before I have encountered a blackout, self-induced blackout from popping the circuits. Now the issue there is, excuse me, I keep forgetting that in the garage downstairs I have a hey Silverback Creations, nice to meet you, or nice to meet you, nice seeing you on the stream again. Yeah, I've got a freezer downstairs in the basement, and whenever that thing kicks on and cycles, it will, of course, pop the breaker. So I've got to go ahead and get um, the electrical. So yeah, the nice thing is my breaker box is right on this wall, um, right right underneath. So I'm going to be able to come up, and then there's a little bit of a crawl space between the outer wall and the wall, this short side wall here. So they will be able to get in and run circuits, and I'm going to have 2 dedicated 20 amp circuits brought in here. So all my streaming stuff and my computers and everything that's back behind the cameras there will stay on the standard circuit, but all of the printers, I'll have circuits dropped over here that I can run all the printers off. And they will be dedicated 20 amp. And we just need to get these lined up. First. And so yeah, now on the cross braces, as I do them one by one, I'm going to push them tight up against the sides, against the top, and over towards the side. That way they're nice and tight. And then once again, probably off stream, I will go through with a square and just start making sure that everything's squared up. And that's mainly because the squares stairs. Yeah, so for those that joined in late, you can print these parts in PLA and kind of go the Rook route and everything be PLA. I have gone ahead and printed all of these parts in Polymaker ASA green for the main parts here, and the accent parts, which will be the actual bed components, and the extruder hotting components. Those will be in Polymaker Polylite ABS orange. And the electronics backpack is being printed right now in Keene Village Plastics graphite. That one's never going to, it's actually missing the fall and spring. That one's going to go in the garbage. And for those of you that may be wondering, this system I'm using over here is the Gridfinity system. And it's a set of drawers, and I've got 4 3-drawer sets over on my bench stock, and I'm slowly going through and moving everything to the bench stock. And then what I'll be able to do is bring them over here and actually lay out what I need for the build that day on the bench, so that at the end of the build, it all goes back over in bench stock in the right place. But this gets reconfigured based on the build task of the day. We're just going to work our way around. Once again, we'll line these up as we go. Okay, and on this end here, these holes are too close together for me to do the trick that I've been doing. So I'm going to have to flip them around and have them both go the same direction. Good news is with this tail end here, we shouldn't have a problem with the tail end being exposed at all. Exactly what we need to get those lined up. So oh yeah, definitely. So I also have a 14-foot by 20-foot shed out back that has my Shapeoko CNC in it, and as well as a lot of my other woodworking tools. And I ran 220 amp circuits out there as well. So it's got, it runs up in the attic over, then penetrates the house at the eave and runs right down the corner of the house, and then underground to the shed and pops up. Hey Rob Inc., how's it going today, sir? Thank you for joining us. So we are in the process of building a BugBu, which is a new printer design by Rolls17. And we've got Noxon on, who's also in the process of building one. Yep. Noxon's pretty far along, right? You've got your frame put together, and I believe, do you have your gantries on there as well, did I see? And once again, coming in back here, we've got the two holes that are closer together. So rather than do this configuration where we have the holes at the opposing ends and the holes pretty much line up, we have to do it like this and the holes line up. Oh, so your belt's with USPS, so you only have another week and a half to go? I don't know about you, but every time I've been getting notices from the USPS lately, they're like, oh, it's going to be a couple, 3 weeks or something like that. And then all of a sudden it shows up, and 3 days later they tell me it was delivered. You still need to run the X and Y belts. Okay, so you're pretty much, all the mechanicals are in place. You're just ready to start doing your actual belting. Yeah, the longest pole in the tent, as I mentioned before on this printer, is the, since it's a triple lead screw design, running off of a single motor, like the Bambu Labs, it requires an 1080 or to 1100 millimeter belt. They're hard to find, and even if you can find them on like Amazon, they're shipping from China, so it's still taking a while. I think I was able to find one that may show up Tuesday or Wednesday next week. We'll see. And I also have some that may be a little bit longer. And if that's the case, you may see me add a piece to the front that will actually add some additional tension at the front between the front two idlers, as I've seen on some other printers in the past. And that may be a viable option because like 1140 and 1164, I found a lot more options for those sizes. So that may be an option down the road. Same thing. So that may be an option down the road. Rolls is a larger belt, but having another tensioning piece in the front. Right. Yeah. So it's the closed loop belt for the Z-axis. It's probably been the longest pole in the tent. For the most part, you can get the CHC stuff on Amazon or other resellers pretty easily. I think everything else was easy enough to get on. The Silverback Creations, what are you up to today? Doing anything interesting? as everybody can see, maybe not, there's not much, but there is a tad bit of wobble to this. Not, actually it just went away. So it may have just been a spot on the table that it was sitting on. But what I will normally do now that we've got the frame gone, or the frame together here, is I would take this out to the kitchen, and you've got two options. If you don't have a stone work surface on your build table, if you have a glass cooktop, those are really flat. Or if you've got any type of stone countertop, those are really flat as well. And you can use those, and like I said, it's just undo things and then slowly work your way around using a square and making sure that the base is perfectly square. And then I would probably do the top perfectly square and then work on the sides and making them perfectly square. But you want to go around and make sure that this is as square as possible. And in order to do that appropriately, you're really going to need a flat level surface. And the best place to do that, like I said, is going to be if you have a glass range or a stone countertop. Those will be plenty flat enough to do that. That's what a lot of people do. Is this is just like a 1/2 inch melamine top surface, so it could sag. Yeah, you definitely want something that's known good flat. You're going direct on the Ender 3. What kind of direct drive are you going to use? Silverback? Okay. Okay, so you're still going to use the standard Ender 3 extruder and just relocate it. Gotcha. So we've got our frame together, the basic frame together. I'm going to pre-read the instruction manual. Next up would be the gantry assembly, which I do not have the gantry parts. One thing I will talk about is the way that the rods go in here. So you'll notice there's a spot right here, and then there's one at the top. So it will line up, but you'll put your one end in and then slip it the other way, and that'll be your rod, and then you'll have clamps on either side that'll hold. So that's a nice feature. Otherwise, as you're putting these pieces on, you have to make sure that the rod's in and it's fully seated, and then mount things. And it can sometimes be a little bit more of a pain in the butt. But in the same way on the side, for the X gantry, you have that ability to clamp. And so all of the parts where your bearings go, whether you use dryland bearings or the LM8 UU bearings, like these, standard LM8 UU bearings, the parts clamp together around them, which is good because you need to have an appropriate amount of tension on those bearings for them to work right. So yeah, that'll be a good thing. So where are we at? This is the back that's facing me right now. So what we'll have is these two parts are going to mount back here, and I believe they're going to mount in this type of manner. And you have the adjustments so that you can mount your power supply on this side. So you use your M4 screws through these two bolts into the back of the power supply, and then this gives you the adjustability to place it on the parts program. And then there's a backpack that mounts back here, and this will have your SKR Mini E3V3 and Raspberry Pi. Or I believe I heard that Rollahan has just acquired or is waiting on it to be shipped a Manta M4P, which will of course have a CB1 or a CM4 module, compute module that mounts to it. So it becomes an all-in-one board, which will have your controller and your host on the same physical board. Ender 3 into a drop printer. Yes, Silverback. I have seen mods to turn. There is a mod out there. I can't tell you too much about it, but I have seen a mod for converting an Ender 3 to a Core XY. But yeah, to me at that point, you'd almost be better off to just buy an Ender 5. And here's the thing. If you're familiar with Creality printers and printers as a whole, and you're confident, my suggestion to you, troll eBay. I tend to get printers through, I believe it's stores Tradeport Direct. That's where I've gotten the that's where I got my Ender 3 Pros that I use to build Red Dragon and Blue Dragon, which is sitting off camera right now. So eventually, for a heads up for these guys, for you all, D-Bot here is going to come down, and Blue Dragon is going to come up here, and I will be tearing this down and rebuilding it somewhat. And I'm going to rebuild it a la a Mercury 0G Mercury for the gantries. I will rework the top of it, make it a 0G top, and potentially do either a triple lead screw like we're doing here on the BugBu, or a full up Hydra on it. So that one will be off the stand soon, and will be being worked on in the background. But I got I've gotten 3 Ender 3 Pros and my Ender 5 Pro that became my 0G Mercury downstairs, my Ender 5 Plus from Tradeport Direct on eBay. And I will tell you, I got my Ender 5 Plus, which I believe is a $600 retail printer, for under $300. And other than needing to go get the frame bolt, which I just went down to Lowe's and picked up M5 screws, panhead Phillips screws, and put the frame together with those. Everything was in the box. Everything was there. So research it. They always say, it's for parts. But if you've been with Creality for a while, you know that, parts are easy enough. And if you can get a cheap Ender 5 Pro, or even an Ender 5 Plus, then you have a great frame that you can work on. The Ender 5 and the Ender 5 Pro are the same build size as the Ender 3. The Ender 5 Plus is a 370 by 370 build volume. Plus, I think it's like 400 in Z. So that's a big printer. big printer to the fact of my helmet here. This is a one piece for all the bronze. All the blue, of course, are accents and stuff, but this is a one piece helmet that was printed on the Ender 5 chassis that is now the 0G Mercury 1. Yes, so Silverback Creations. This is a Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine Chaplain's helmet. And you can print the helmet in multiple parts, or you can print it all in one. This is printed all in one using organic supports. They do say that you don't need to put all the supports in the middle and just let your top sag. But I did supports in this all the way around. Ton of supports, but I think it came out really, really well. And so these black pieces here are the tube ends, and there will be tubes that come around. So there'll be respirator tubes on the front. There are eyepieces, and I will probably not use printed eyepieces. I will probably use those as templates to use visor material to make see-through eye sockets. If I can get this to sit. There we go. It also has the ear cups. Right? There's ear cups. And then there's another knob in the back that fits right there. And so what I'm going to do is on these temple studs, I'm going to print the center studs out in Polymaker Chrome. And this is Polymaker bronze. So it's a metallic bronze. And this is a Polymaker, or I'm sorry, not Polymaker. This is a Xyltech Cobalt Blue. And then Polymaker Galaxy Black for the end tubes. And the tubing did come in. It uses some standard larger size tubing for the respirator tubes. Oh, sorry. And the designer specifies the exact size to use here. I have enough here. I could do like probably 20 helmets off of them. But yeah, that is an awesome helmet. I really, really like the way it looks. Once I get it done and assembled, I'm going to take it to the local game shop, and they're doing a lot of Warhammer 40,000 paint. I'll say like paint gatherings. So everybody gets together and paints their Warhammer 40,000 stuff. And my buddy Evil Diesel's starting to drag me into that. And he's like, you really need to bring that helmet down here. So I'll take the helmet down there, and they may talk me into like sanding and painting it. Just like looking at all the work that will go into sanding and painting that. And I'm like, oh. Now I know I can get rid of the layer lines. That was printed at a 0.2 layer height with a 0.4 nozzle. And I know I could get a better surface if I go with like a 0.16 or smaller layer height. It's just going to take, like that helmet took 4 days to print and a little over a kilo, so a little over a roll. But yeah, so let me switch camera views back over here. So since Chewy just got here, since he was slacking this morning. Yeah, so what I would do first is run like 60 or 80 grit on it to knock the layer lines down as much as possible, Chewy. Rinse it off, wash it, let it dry, and then do primer filler and then start working through it. But yeah, you wind up sanding it like 7, 8, 9 times to get a really good surface. So once again, this is the BugBu printer, and I like that we've got the BugBu logo on pretty much all of the larger printed parts. All of the frame pieces are, for this build, this is the BugBu 2010 or BugBu 210. And it's all 300 millimeter extrusions. And right now we've got the main frame. I do have extra extrusions, by the way. So I want to say it's 12 overall extrusions that you need. So the suggestion is to buy the 10 pack and then the 4 pack. I bought 2 10 packs because I was like, yeah, why not? But the other frame piece here is I believe cross member. Does it do a full T for the bed? Who here slept last night? I slept a little bit. Just the rear for the bed? Yeah, that's right, because the front 2 are on the lead screw, and then there's one at the back for the back lead screw, and then there's a cross member to allow for the 4 mounting points for the standard inner 3 bed. I'm going to look through and see what I can kind of start putting in place, because it talks about doing the gantry next, but one, I haven't got the gantry parts all printed yet. What I've been trying to do, I've had to finish up a print order for Cedar I'm going to send off, I need to do a small test print because I ran out of filament 1 white ASA. So I had to switch over because filament 1, I can't find it anywhere in the traffic white ASA. So I switched over and got some Overture. And I'm going to see if it's close. If it's not close, and what I'll probably do, because I need to print 4 parts over on the Ender 3 here because they're too big to fit on the Boron 01. So what I'll do is, because those 4 are the skirts, if I have to and it's different colors, I will reprint all of the skirts in the Overture. And so the different shades will at least be further apart and they won't be as noticeable. White's one of those things that's really, really hard to. So why you been working all night, Chewy? You got a printer project you're working on, or did you actually have like this thing called work? Yeah, Chewy is a slacker. Oh wow, you had more bad winds and weather, Westery? Because I know we had a system that just rolled over the top of us, and it's dropping some rain, but it says there's still supposed to be a lot of high wind. Okay, now the rain's going on until 1. Let me see if you guys can see that. There's a system getting ready to come over us, and it's heading kind of northeast. So hopefully it misses you, Westery, and it doesn't come up and hit you again. Yeah, we're getting those systems rolling through on us as well. Which printer, Chewy? You say the wife's printer, but which printer is down now? Hey, Kit Skyfire, how are you doing today? It's an Ender 3, Chewy? Upgraded Ender. Okay. Oh yeah, I hope so, Westry. Well, my Ender 3 is heavily modded as well. It's running a Big Tree Tech SKR Mini E3 V3, a Mike 6 4mm thick build plate with a silicone 24-volt heater. On linear rails on the X and Y. Got a micro Swiss all metal hot end with hardened steel 0.6 nozzle. It's got a Sherpa Mini in direct drive. Soon going to be a Sherpa Mini with a filament runout sensor in direct drive that will have an MMU that I'm testing that will sit on top. So the physical build of the MMU is done. Currently it's an 11 lane. I do have a 12th lane printed for it. But it is pretty good. Catching a little bit because I don't have this servo all the way yet. I do have it all wired up, so I just need to run the power connections and the cable down to the Pi. Well, power connections to the power supply and the USB down to the Raspberry Pi, then start doing configurations and I'll be able to start testing it out. But we also have the MMU going on Purple Haze here. We have the standard Prusa MMU going. Need to do some more prints on that one. Yeah, definitely rolls. So the next stream rolls will be Tuesday evening. I will go live around 5 p.m. Eastern time. And by then, hopefully the linear rods and the lead screws will show up. And I will definitely have all the gantry pieces printed so that we can start putting together the gantry. And I should have the extruder stuff printed as well, so we can do that as well. So yeah, definitely follow the channel and make sure your notifications are turned on so you'll get notified when I go live the next time. I do try and also tweet out and jump around on the Discord channels to say when I'm going live, which I think is how you found the channel today, Rolls, because I definitely put it out there on the Discord. I hope that was okay, by the way. I didn't see a specific channel for it, but I figured since I was building your printer, I might want to tell people that, hey, we're doing a live build for anybody that's never built one before. Awesome, Chewy. Yeah, so Chewy, CAN bus wise, so I think the mellow flyboards and definitely all of the stealth burner, whether they're the 2209 or was it the 2040 drivers, they're coming with the XT30+2 connector for them and the pre-made cables, which is fabulous. I just did the CAN install. Well, I'm still in the process of doing the CAN install for the 0G Mercury 1 downstairs. I've got all of the firmware installed, so it's talking to the board. The UTC has been sitting down there powered up, connected for a week now. And on Wednesday's stream, excuse me, not Wednesday's stream, Wednesday, as I was listening to Modbot's stream, which was great. It was an ERCFA stream turned, what was that, Anchor Make J1 IDEX unboxing stream. You don't have a paid subscription? Yeah, the paid subscription will get rid of the ads for you. But yeah. But anyhow, during that, I actually made my CAN bus cable, my 4-wire CAN bus cable for that build. And it's downstairs. If Mrs. Dragon is listening to the thing, if she can grab the cable that's sitting right underneath the display of the big printer downstairs, and she is not, darn it. So no family grabbing me a cable. But basically what I did was I ensured that I used the smaller 4-pin connector for the actual BBB36 board, and I used the larger connector at the UTC board because the 4 pins are different. So if they are wired the same end to end, you could potentially put that cable in backwards and fry one or both boards or more. So I tend to make my cables so they only plug in one way. Because it takes my own stupidity out of it after that. But I actually used 20 gauge FET cabling for the power and 24 gauge for the CAN FET cabling for the CAN high-low. And it's about an 8-foot long cable. So I think I cut it at like 9 feet. And then I did twist both pairs separately and then put it in a cloth split loom, 1/4-inch cloth split loom. So it's all done. The EBB is now mounted. All I need to do is undo the old wiring, crimp a lot of new ends, and terminate them on the board, and then run the CAN cable and do configuration. But yeah, I don't really mind doing cables like that either. I mean, I will be lazy and order a cable if I can, but it's really not that hard to make cables. It's just tedious and time consuming. So if you've got the time to do it, definitely do it. If not, yeah, buy them. Get yourself some time. But I don't think there's anything else I can do because I can't mess with the gantry. In the bottom clips, my belts. I could probably put these on, but I think these are the so these will be the pieces that will sit on here that will allow you to clamp the bearing and your 8mm rods. And so you have 1/4 ones. So this is front left, bottom. So that has to be the front left. Front left bottom doesn't make sense. So if it does go on the bottom, then that means that these get moved around and nothing's going to. So I'm thinking it is the bottom front right, maybe? Does that make sense? Maybe these markings are backwards? Oh, yeah. Bottom means it goes at the bottom because there are top pieces as well, and those will be at the top portion. Okay, yeah, so that's going to the bottom. There we go, front left bottom. So yeah, that'll line up with the linear rod or the linear or the lead screw, and then the linear rod is off to the side, back at an angle. Yes, these are the idlers, so this would be the front. And yeah, I guess it helps if I, I have the manual right here. It would help if I look at the part, look at the manual, then it will tell me, yeah, it would go like that. This piece does go here in the back, and there will be a specific measurement for that. And then these pieces will be part of the clamps for the top. And your clamping pieces aren't labeled, but I did go ahead and label mine. So this is back center top and back center. So this would be the one that will line up back here. And these just thread right into the plastic part. And all we're doing is providing some clamping force to the bearing and the linear rod, just enough to keep the friction from pulling them up and out, right? And if this was a pass through, there wouldn't be enough of a press fit to be able to get stuff in and out. Say long edge forward, but that's not what the manual shows, Chewy. So, yeah, and I'll go ahead and get these, I will say, just mounted. I'll have to check and see what the measurement is, and maybe I can get this measured into. Go ahead and get this mounted on here because we'll and these will be M3 socket head cap screws that will be used to pull these in and tighten them up. Bearing. And like I said, I don't have those. But and like I said, I'm quickly running out of the pieces that I actually had printed ahead of time, just because I needed to finish printing those parts for Cedar Craft. And I just need to get them in the mail. Yeah, looking at the manual, they look to be going long way back because there's two screws on one side, one on the other, and looking at the manual, there's only one screw visible at the front. Which would make sense with this being on the left side. Because if it was long edge forward, it'd be over here, which would be the right side of the printer, which then mean the labeling makes sense. Yeah, I don't think it should matter whether the rods are over here on the side or out to the front. The big thing is your rods cannot protrude above the top mounted pieces, either your lead screw or your threaded rods. So they can be longer downwards. They cannot be longer upwards because then you'll hit it with the gantry and that'll cause lots and lots of problems. I also have that's the rear tensioner printing now. And this is the rear motor mount, but I'm gonna have to reprint that because as you can see, I did get some warping. This printed last night. So I'm not sure why, but I'm seeing a lot of compression stress here and warping. So this will be reprinted. But this mounts rear facing, right? So your Z motor is going to come off the back. And when you put your belt on initially, your Z motor is going to be pushed all the way forward. Your initial tension is going to be sliding your motor back. That'll give you your initial tension. You'll have a piece that'll mount here. Your belt will come through the gear or the teeth around a tension pulley here, around the 3 lead screws, and back. Like I said, depending on which belt shows up when I need it, I may have to add a piece here that pushes forward and add some tensioning in the front here because I have some 1140 belts that are coming, because you can get 1140 and I think 1164 belts really close. I mean, you can get them in a couple of days because those are standard stock sizes here. That 1100 millimeters is a really, really weird size belt, and trying to find a good source for those is hard, other than from China via AliExpress. And yeah, that's why Rolls was saying I think he said he ordered like 20 belts so that he can sell them to people that need them here in the stateside, so they can get. Yeah, and so like this printer right here, as long as I had a step file, I could print that. I mean the MMU unit that I was working on back here, that I just showed y'all, all I had for that is a CAD file. I didn't have any no wiring diagram, no build instructions. It was CAD file. Because like I said, it's beta. They're still working on it. Things will probably change some. They've already got a couple of changes coming for the servo mount and the horns and stuff. But it's one of those things that if you reprint it, you have to reprint like 3/4 of the parts. So I'm probably not going to reprint this just yet. Okay, at 1040, your belt would be a lot shorter than. So yeah, you have to change that a bit. Yeah, legit pick. Yeah, gotcha. And like I said, the 608 bearings, they are just a press fit in these corners, and I mean, it's a pretty good fit. Um, they're not going to like, if I flip this over, I don't think they'll fall out. I think they're in there pretty good. You'd have to smack the bottoms of them to get them to fall out. But what you're going to have is a 608 bearing, a GT20 8mm inner diameter pulley that'll go around the lead screw, and then a spacer, and then another bearing. So you'll have a captive system at the bottom and another bearing at the top. And so that should keep your linear rod nice and rigid and straight. So because the linear motion system is going to be constrained, you need to make sure that your rods are not bent. That means, once again, go to a known flat surface, glass stovetop, stone countertop, not a Formica countertop, but a stone countertop, and roll it across with a light behind it to see if you're seeing light underneath it from a bow, or if you can see a visible bow. If that's the case, you're going to need to go and get some more lead screws. So my suggestion is buy a couple more lead screws than what you need, because if one's bent, you're going to have to buy more anyhow, and pay for more shipping and stuff like that, and wasted time. So on things like that, like the chrome rods, I haven't gotten a bent chrome rod. If you can bend a stainless steel chromed rod, good. lead screws are a little bit easier to bend and get a bend in that'll stay. Don't even get me started on like all thread or just threaded rod, because I've used those in printers before. Those are awesome, by the way. But yeah, like right now, I'm literally at a standstill on the build simply because I'm waiting on some parts to come in. I have the belts, I have all the mechanical stuff. I just don't have the linear rods or the lead screws, which is what I need to continue the build, and printed parts. But all that should be resolved by Tuesday stream. Yeah, it seems to be a pretty good design so far. Um, can some things be better? Yeah. Um, there's a lot of places where um, coming up we're going to start screwing into plastic um, or captive nuts. Some people don't like screwing into plastic, though if it's a low torsion area, it's perfectly fine. Some people don't like screwing into captive nuts. It's perfectly fine. Bruce has been using it for years. So it's definitely not a bad way to go. I think a lot of us have just gotten used to and have a healthy stock. And no, this is not all my stock of threaded inserts, set inserts. And trust me, I like these as well. Whether it's threaded inserts or captive nuts, if you ever swap parts out for an iteration, yeah, sometimes you can get the captive nuts out, sometimes you can't. And I'm not going to go and start breaking or cutting parts apart just to recover a couple of M3 nuts away and buy more. So yeah, and you'll see that based on where I move this on the table, there will be a little bit of a wobble. Once again, this is a 1/2 inch melamine, so it'll probably have a little bit of a wobble or sag to the table itself. That's where I say whenever I do printer frames, I normally go down and do it on either the glass stop of the stove or the countertop, whichever space is available at the time, or easier to clean off. But you want a good flat surface. Eventually, I'll probably go and get, I'm trying to find a stone remnant that's big enough, probably where they, like a single sink or a double sink. One of those cutoffs would be pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely heat up the insert and then either hook and pull it back out, depending on the type of part, or just push it straight through. I mean, that's not a problem. You can recover them that way um, and reuse them. But like I said, it depends on the geometry of the part and how I'm feeling that day of whether I try and recover. Well, and for the most part too, I mean, like the M5 nuts, they slipped in and they like clipped in. Like they slid in very nicely, and when I pushed them in, you heard a click where they fell into place. The idler bearings up here, you put the captain nuts in. Once again, they kind of clicked into place, and I put the idler in, and it almost perfectly lined up off the bat to where I could just start putting the screw in, and it massaged right into place. I didn't have to fiddle with it like you do on, I'll say, when you're using your flange bearings to make. So the issues with some of these is the inner bearing races on them can be junk, and they've had a lot of these blow apart on boron, so they stopped using them and went to flange bearings. But once again, it depends on how much tension are you putting on it, how fast are you trying to do, what kind of accelerations are you going to do, because everybody wants to print fast, but printing fast puts a lot more tension or a lot more wear and tear on your belts, bearings, printed parts. So you just have to be aware of that, which means you're going to have to do more maintenance. So even to your linear rails. The Ender 3 over here that's in the Wham Bam pop-up and the Voron V0, I wind up having to do more maintenance on the linear rails there and trying to add more grease to the linear rails because they're in temperatures all versus having a printer that's straight open air. Yeah, and so once again, the printer files or the STLs were designed around PLA part. These are all printed in ASA. The orange will be ABS. And I printed these, scaling them to 100.5% in all directions. And that's been the gem for me as far as shrinking on all the KVP or any other stuff. I haven't had too many issues other than, some like overhangs for I think what wind up being belt pass that I had to clean out just because my bridging and overhangs were a little cruddy. I need to just buy more cooling fan on those. But yeah, other than that, all of these prints have been spot on so far. This came together real quickly, which has been nice so far. I like that the mounts themselves will have the motors placed at the right height, so it's not like the motors are mounted at the same height and you're just changing the distance or flipping the 22 pulley, like some designs. So that's pretty nice so far. Yeah, it's worked out pretty nicely. It's come together pretty quickly. And then for now, I'm just going to sit this down on the side and we'll bring back up our little micron here. I have not done any more work on it. I've done a few prints on it. What I need to do is hey micron. Sorry, this is a roll hand rook. I still need to clean up these wires some. Now that it's printing well, I just need to cut and recrimp new ends on these wires to clean it up. I have not input shaped it yet, so once I input shape it, the fan on this side will move one more spot over so that it aligns better with the heat sinks on the Raspberry Pi Zero and the SKR, or excuse me, yeah, the SKR Pico board. And I may add one on the other side and run one off of the Raspberry Pi and the other one off of the Pico so that I have good pass-through cooling. But we'll see. Right now, I'm not getting really bad temps on it. I just want the fan to be better aligned. And there has been, somebody did make files for a full skirt for this. And there's also what they refer to it as, the dungeon, which adds like another box to the bottom of it. So it basically boxes in this bottom part. So all your electronics are boxed in. So reprint some of the files for the BugBu or for your Rook? Because you have a Rook too, right, Cherry? Like I said, I think that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on, doing, cleaning up the wiring here, reducing the wiring some. And like I said, I still need to input shape this. And I think what I'm going to do is because there are input shaper mounts on the back here. All you have to do is put heat set inserts in, and then you should be able to mount it. The problem is these won't fit my particular input shaper. So, and it would be in an odd orientation. So what I may do is just create a plate, or probably already have a mounting plate for it, and I'll just VHB tape it to the top of the rook, or the rookery here, and run my input shaping with it sitting right here, because that way I can do X, Y in one motion and not have to look at the different graphs from it being in an odd orientation. And then once I input shape it, that should help some. And then I still need to do pressure advance tuning. But it's printing well. I printed some Easter eggs and stuff off on it. It's printing well still. It's just now I'm done with the build. I need to do the final cleanup work now that everything's. The dungeon was for zombie. You didn't jive with the design of the rook. It's a neat little printer. And I am planning on taking this, my V01, and possibly one other printer, maybe two other printers with me, to Murph in Goshen, Indiana in end of June or end of July. Never remember. And I am going to Rocky Mountain Rep Fest next month. Tickets are already bought. It's going to be great because I'm going to fly out and spend a couple of days with my mother-in-law, and I'm going to fly back home, and Mrs. Dragon's going to fly out, and because my mother-in-law is going to have shoulder surgery. So Mrs. Dragon's going to fly out and spend a couple of weeks to a month out there with her as she recovers. I can't spend that long out in Colorado anymore, because if I do, I wind up in the hospital with my asthma and stuff. So you're going to be at Murph by yourself, or I'll see you at Rocky Mountain, Chewy? At Murph, okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to Rocky Mountain. I've already ordered a t-shirt, and I've got the multicolor print, so I'm going to print out some of the Murph logos in multicolor on my MMU, and possibly on the other one, the one I'm beta testing right now, because I think that'll be fun and cool to bring along with me, because I can throw those in the back, or in my bag easy enough. And then, like I said, for Murph, I'm probably gonna get a baker table in the middle of the area, and Evil Diesel's gonna go with me. So we're gonna drive up and stay at my son's place for a couple of days and sleep in the back of the SUV. Yeah, my son lives up, so my in-law, my mother-in-law, brother-in-law live in Colorado. So I can go out there and stay with one of them for going to Rocky Mountain. My son lives in the Goshen, Indiana area, so I'll stay with him when I go to Murph. And then Evil Diesel still knows people in Bel Air, Maryland, because he's from that area. So we may have a place to crash without having to get a hotel there. Or we may look at what the drive looks like, because my brother lives in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So if the drive's not too bad from Fredericksburg, we just stay at my brother's house and drive over. Either way, I know where the Micro Center is in Denver, and I know where the Micro Center is in Fairfax. So there will be a Micro Center, a couple of Micro Center trips this year. So yeah, I'll probably just leave this up here because I will work on these later today since it's raining and I can't do something. I'm also going to work on rewiring or re-terminating the wires for the 0G probably today, and then tomorrow I'm going to go hang out with Evil Diesel and do some. They're going to start me D&D gaming, maybe some Warhammer stuff. I don't think I showed you guys this. Might have to take a little video and see if I want to post it. So a blending of gaming. So he's making custom characters for people for the games using the resin printer, and I will be as well. And we printed out these brackets, and what this is. This is I believe, a 32-inch LCD screen that I gave to him because I wasn't using it. And he took it out of the frame, and he's got the game actually running on it. So he runs his D&D games, all the maps, right off of his iPad or his laptop. Actually, just connects this laptop in, and he can run the games. And like you can see the full map now, but when you're playing, wherever your characters are, you can only see a certain amount based on the character. And if you go into a room, it only lights up field of view cones, not the whole room. And so yeah, it's really good. The whole back's open right now, and these brackets clip onto the TV and allows him to run a sheet of plexiglass over the top, so you can actually move your characters across the plexiglass. And he's gonna add touch capability on the plexiglass. So as you move your character, it will actually open the map up as you run across it and view it. So it's a blending of coding and everything else. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I said, I like the D&D genre. I've never ever played D&D, so this is going to be pretty good for me to go in and learn it finally. But yeah, I love the whole fantasy type stuff, whether it's Warhammer 40,000 in the Space Marines, or D&D and dragons and goblins and all that stuff. I mean, I just get into all of that. Really cool. Lord of the Rings, that type of stuff. But that's all the progress I can really make today on any one project. I hate doing wiring on stream. Not that it's that bad. It's just I feel like I'm focusing here and not really talking to anybody. Yeah, we'll make sure there's plenty of cooling there, Chewy. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah. Yeah, so part of this printing over here is the actual electronics case. That's been going for a while, but here's the cover for it. There will be a spot for 2 fans. Once again, you run one off the Raspberry Pi probably, and one off of the controller board, or you can gang them together and run them off the controller board. The other side is kind of icky. I did have to put some bed weld down. So this will come off. I just need to wash it off. And then here are two other brackets. This one is a bracket that slips over, which won't work on. This will work for an Ender 3 to mount a Sherpa Mini and be a direct drive to whichever hot end you're using. But if it works great if you can slip it over the plate. I can't do that on my Ender 3. I can do it on the Ender 3 Max, which I'm probably going to do. But mine, I have a linear rail on the x-axis. So this mounts better because what it does is it's got the cutout for the metal fan shroud. And so this will be the one screw that goes through the piece that holds the metal fan shroud in. And then the larger hole over here goes through that one wheel bearing, which in my case is a shorter, it's M5 screw that goes into the backing plate that connects to the linear rail. And then once again, just need to clean but Sherpa mounts to the top, which my Sherpa is already mounted. I just need to change that mount out for this mount because I think this one will hold a little bit better because it's got 2 points of contact where my other one only has. And I need to take that Sherpa apart anyhow and add the parts to put a filament sensor on it. And then that'll work for the MMU unit or as a straight filament runout sensor, period. But yeah, this stuff, the bed weld just washes off. Just need to wash it off under some soap and water. You just killed a sweet setup. Oh yeah, by the way, Chew, you said that you've got a heavily modified Ender 3 that you have to get up and running for your wife. Yeah, Evil Diesel just had the same thing. In fact, I got the call for help yesterday and went over to his house and helped get his back up and running. Now I got linear rails on the X, the Y, and a direct drive setup, which is the relocated standard Ender extruder. Hey, Ian Douglas, how are you doing today, sir? Thanks for joining in. And he was just having some issues, and he was getting very inconsistent flow and stuff like that. And I was looking at it, and as I was listening, I was hearing moves and actually physically watching how it was laying down. And I was like, I know what the problem is. And I went up and I watched the extruder. So the drive gear on that extruder, so the set screw, neither one of the two set screws was against the flat. So I took the arm off, undid the set screws, rotated it around, put it on the flat, made sure everything was tight again, and it started printing just fine. We were able to figure out all the other issues. So he's back up and printing, but he was starting to take heat from his wife because she's like, it needs to print. Stop modifying it and just print. Like, I've got things I need you to print. So I think it's the Manta E3 Easy. Okay, so you've installed the Manta E3 Easy, which has easy drivers. And if I remember right, there's an issue with the tab that you have to be careful of when you mount it. Otherwise, you may break off your SD card reader. My bot did a video on that. Yeah, so every time it would, like when it was extruding, it had enough hold that it would extrude, just not as consistently. But when it would do a retract or anything like an accelerated move, it was just like a grind because the teeth would catch on the tooth and then the shaft would spin. So once I got that fixed off, it was. Yeah, you got to read the manual because that's definitely in there now because it's all the mounting points on the board line up and the SD card and all that's good. It's the fact that the tab for the actual electronics compartment cover, if you're not paying attention, you have to like wiggle it around it. Otherwise, you'll snap you'll catch the actual SD card and rip the card reader off. Oh, nice. So what are you up to today, Ian Douglas? Say, don't you normally stream on Saturdays? So this is my Rook right here. We weren't working on this one today. I just put it up here to chat about it. But what we are working on building, so I'm going to put this down off the table for. I'm going to work on that later today and clean up the wiring. But we've been working on the BugBu print. So this is a new printer designed by Rolls17. The files are up on printables, and he also has links to his new Discord server and the GitHub. But the so far the printer went together really well. All the files are designed to be printed in PLA. I printed all of these right here in Polymaker, Polylite ASA green. And the accent colors will be all the bed pieces and the actual extruder pieces. Hey, Evil Diesel, how's it going? I've been talking about you a lot, so your ears should have been burning. But I do like he's got a design on all of the main parts here. So it's a ladybug with boo, so it's BugBu. This will be basically it's a low cost design, extruded frame, printed parts that mimics a Bambu. So you will have a single Y rod on each side, and then a dual X rod linear rod system. And you will have 3 lead screws, 1 in the back, 2 in the front. And those lead screws will be driven, synchronized and driven off of a closed loop belt and the single motor that comes out in the back. I'm still waiting on the linear rods and the lead screws to come in. So this is really as far as I can get based on parts that I have printed today and physical parts that I have in already. Printing parts. Like I said, I like to pop those parts off and then put them down at the bottom as I print other parts. So they have a longer duration time to cool down to an ambient temperature. And there's a couple of parts, for whatever reason, well, I know what reason it was, they were overnight prints. But like this particular part right here, you can see how it warped up in the corners. And this being a motor mount probably wouldn't be bad because it's at the end. But I am going to reprint this just because. But I'm going to wait, print everything else out, and then print this. Because if I run out of green and I have to print this in orange, then so be it. But I want to make sure that all my standard parts are printed out first. The backpack parts are being printed in my KVP graphite. ABS, which I love this design or this color. So this is be the electronics case, the cover, the electronics case itself is printing, and it'll mount back here, back. And these are mounts for the power supply. Yes. Yeah. These would be mounts, adjustable mounts for the power supply. So it's all good there. Yeah, and when I printed these, Chewy, I printed these with, I'll say, the standard boron, so they're, I think, 6 walls, and over 40% cubic infill. So the parts are really rigid and strong. But yeah, I get that. I'm just going to wait until the end to reprint that to make sure I have enough green for all the main parts. And power supply is in the table. Oh, yours is just sitting on the table? And then as I was putting this together, I was talking about one way if you wanted to enclose this, because you've got these parts that are surface mounted, one of the easier ways would be as you're building this, you do the base and then you do the uprights, and then you could have your custom cut pieces that are just straight squares that will slide right down in the channels. And you would put your, like your 3mm width or 4mm width, probably do 6mm width foam tape, either foam or the like the fuzzy foam back tape in the channels, and then you slide your panel down, and then you put your top pieces on. Now you've got a captive panel. Yeah, it's going to be a pain in the butt to open it up, and you're probably still going to have to do at least a door on one side, but you do those panels on potentially the bottom with cutouts and the 3 of the sides, add a door for the front, and you've got it good. Otherwise, now you're going to have to make the cuts around the doors or do a redesign where it's more of an L-shaped, open it up 4 doors. I don't know. Yeah, you would be able to do like a I'm sure even with the motor mounts here, because of the way that they're at different heights. Oh wait, there is a piece that mounts on here, but I'm sure there would be a way to make a folding or flip top hat on here. Like I said, like a record player. So once again, that's about as far as we can go with this build today on the BugBu. I just wanted to show that off since we had some latecomers here in Douglas and stuff. So, and off camera, I will take this frame and put a square to it, and once again get it out on the either the stove, which is a glass top stove, or the countertop, which is a stone countertop, because those would be your good flat surfaces you can use to go ahead and make sure that everything's nice and square, and then crank down on them, get everything tightened. But for now, we're pretty good. And that's where we're at. So with that, I think I am going to call the stream. I am going to focus on getting some more parts printed for this, so that when we come back Tuesday, hopefully we'll have the linear rods and the lead screws come in before the stream starts, and we'll be able to continue to get everything laid out. And I do have to clean my linear bearings and re-grease them as appropriate. We'll get going. So with that, who all is online at the moment? We may raid over into. Over into copper. Not a lot on regular. Oh, hey, Evil Diesel, thanks for subscribing. That's awesome, buddy. Yeah, no worries, Chewy. I understand that people have lives, and I'm trying to fill an early morning Saturday slot because I know that I'm trying to jump in slots where how can I put it? The people that I like to watch stream aren't on, so I'm not running into theirs, so I can one watch them live stream and support them as well, and then two, it just works best for me to do things early in the morning, and then that way I'm free to do stuff in the evening. And Tuesdays is afternoon, or it's the evening, so I get off work, I reconfigure the space here for streaming, and I can just stream and go. So, okay, you missed the notification, but did you get the notification, Chewy? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that can be designed for. Um, and it's one of those things that potentially you can even create pockets in these, in the corner braces of this, so you can be installing the parts or the panels as you're building a side, right? And they're just captive panels as well. Because the thing I'm looking at is you can cut a square or rectangular panel on any table saw, circular saw, whatever, right? And anybody should be able to do that. Straight edge and a circular saw, and boom, you're good. And you can cut those rectangular panels. But when you start getting into having to do weird cutouts around things, that's where it's okay. It's more advantageous than to have something CNC cut. And not everybody has a CNC, but everybody can, either use the hand and brake method or cut it with a circular saw or what have you. So if you can keep the panels square, it's easier, and that's what all of the V0 panels, all of those are squares, and they're added as panel clips or with panel clips. So yeah, you can do a jigsaw, you can do a handsaw, I mean, you can do any type of thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a matter of how motivated are you to put panels on it, and whether you want to put panels. Seems to be the big thing is doing enclosures so that at least they're a little quieter. Still have to and stuff. But yeah, we're good. I'm not seeing, I see Chris Perillo. I see Foxen is playing Diablo 4, which just recently came out. Ratsky is playing, it's like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. Not a lot of people that are on. Dealer's choice. Okay, yeah, and I definitely want to go to somebody fairly new, and I've been wanting to check out the new Diablo game. I played Diablo in the past, I may start trying to play it again. Who knows? Evil Diesel's, like I said, going to start teaching me some tabletop D&D stuff tomorrow and trying to get me out to the game store, in which uh, once I get my, actually I might, you know, the helmet is definitely going to start getting things glued onto it. Um, like all of these are just sitting on there right now. I still haven't decided 100% if I wanted the accent piece up here, if I just want to reprint this in bronze and have that all in, but a llama just started. Don't see a llama because I may not be a subscriber of a llama, but I did see Free the Heathen had started well. But yeah, my Warhammer 40,000 helmet's here. I do have the tube ends printed for the respirator, and I did get the tubing in, so I can start working on mounting those. The accent pieces, we're going to be cobalt blue for here. In the outer portion of the chin, and then there's a soul patch in the middle I was thinking about doing in the chrome, as well as the center parts of the temple studs we're going to be in chrome. And the earpieces and the back knob are in the cobalt blue as well. So those pieces, I think I'm ready to just goop on there. I need to do a little bit of sanding because there's some spots where the support material, up underneath the eyes and stuff. So I need to do some sanding up here. Maybe wash it off from the sanding dust before I start glooping things on. And then I'll take it as it stands and show it off at the gaming store, see what people think, and they may talk me into just painting the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah. Tom Llama makes. That's what I was thinking. I don't know why I am not following him already. That makes no sense to me. What's Tom Llama working on? Raj, symbol of bench fights finally. Just hang out. Okay. So there we go. We can either watch somebody gaming or we can do llama. Well, there you go, Chewy. Go take like an hour-long nap and then catch Zombie. The Zombie was working on Voron 2.4 build, right? Well, I think he has it done. I think I saw something about it printing. Yeah, definitely. We'll go over to Tom Llama Makes. So let me go ahead and down there so I can move my key. Watch and read at the same time. Tom, right? HOM. Llama Makes. Okay, got that typed in. And we're going to go ahead and get started on the Rado. Oh, it's his anniversary stream. Gotcha, Frankenbean Gaming. There we go. Yeah, definitely. If you get a chance, check out Zombie for because it's his 1 year of streaming. Mine will be in January next year. Will be my 1 year. But yeah, definitely. Let's go over and give him some love later on. Yeah, he's got LDO, West 3D, Fabrico, Polymaker, of course. But he's got plenty of stuff to be given away. So definitely let's right over to Tom Llama Makes right now. And looks like he just brought up Tactile 3D picture. So he's got some good chat going on. And we're going to head on over to Tom Llama Makes. So join me as we go over there. Then definitely let's pop in on Zombie Hedgehog later today and show him some love for his 1 year anniversary of streaming. All right, Chewy, see you next time. Once again, Tuesday, 5 p.m., and then Saturday again at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then. Let's go on over to Tom Llama. Thanks, everybody.